This is so beautiful. But pancakes.
Bowie and Jonah find themselves stuck in the middle of all the drama on this week's Andy Mack. So let's break down Season 2, Episode 18 here on What Happened. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here, and thanks for checking out this week's Andy Mack recap. This was definitely a dramatic episode that tests Bowie's loyalty of sorts and also finds Jonah's panic attacks actually being a key to resolving Buffy and Cyrus's fight. So let's break down this dramatic episode. First up, Andi, Bowie, and the mystery of the missing Tibetan prayer box. Now, it's been a while since we've checked in on Bowie's love life, but it seems like he is still seeing that lady that works at Judy Blume's, Miranda, who has the daughter named Morgan that Andi and Bex previously saw at the mini golf course. Andi's visiting Bowie at work and helping him with his deliveries when Miranda and Morgan show up, and there's a totally awkward introduction because Bowie just kind of gets weird and introduces Miranda to Andi as his friend. Yeah, I'm kind of guessing Miranda probably thinks these two are more serious than just friends, but yeah, Bowie, he's just calling her a friend, so I'm guessing they're not at the labels part of the relationship yet, the boyfriend and girlfriend, which is kind of what makes this whole storyline a bit more awkward as it goes along. Miranda's daughter Morgan does seem a little bit shy, but Bowie volunteers for Morgan to hang out with him and Andi while Miranda runs her errands, and then Miranda kind of gets a little pushy and suggests that Andi show Morgan the Andi shack and basically kind of guilts Andi into saying yes. So Andi takes Morgan to Andi's shack, and Morgan's still pretty quiet and doesn't seem kind of impressed by all this crafting stuff, but Andi really is trying her best to get Morgan excited and want to craft and all of this and to relate to her in a sense. Andi tells Morgan that she can kind of pick anything to, craft or whatever, so Morgan picks up this bracelet and accidentally breaks it, and it turns out that was like the one thing Andi didn't want Morgan to touch. It was the secret project she'd been working on for Bex, which ends up being the hospital bracelets that Andi and Bex had when Andi was born, that Andi's turning into kind of a new bracelet thing that she plans to give to Bex. After Morgan breaks it, Andi actually does her best to keep her cool, not playing up how upset she actually really is, but playing it down, and then she starts to explain to Morgan just what these bracelets are. Morgan then spots the shiny box on a shelf, and that catches her eye, and Andi explains that that's the Tibetan prayer box that she found at like a flea market or something, and that's what she's going to put these bracelets in to give to Bex. So there's a lot of meaning behind this whole project, but Morgan, she's only like 7, so she's not quite processing this, or doesn't seem like she's understanding the full extent of what's happened here, but she does say she's sorry. Andi is just like, it's okay, and tells Morgan that she can use anything else in the shack to make something but this. So Andi puts the bracelet in the box and puts it back on the shelf so that Morgan can't touch it. Meanwhile, Bowie's inside, not chatting to Cece, but chatting to Cece's plans. Cece then walks up and starts talking to Bowie, and she gets excited because Andi is there, so she wants to go out to the Andi shack to say hi to Andi. But Bowie's like, oh no, you shouldn't go out there, he's trying to make Cece avoid going out there because he doesn't want to have to explain who Morgan is, and he just says that Andi has a friend over. But Cece marches right out to the shack and is actually shocked to be introduced to Morgan, who Bowie finally has to introduce as the daughter of the woman he's seeing, which comes as a total shock to Cece, who had no idea Bowie was even seeing somebody. Then Miranda shows up to pick up Morgan, and it just gets more awkward between everybody. Now, as Bowie walks Morgan and Miranda out, Andi returns to the shack and realizes the box of bracelets is missing from the shelf, and she just starts yelling, "She took it! She took it!" With she, of course, meaning Morgan. And she just says it over and over. Now, why she didn't just say it once, look around real quick, right under where the shelf is, where it could have fallen to, and realize it's gone, and then run after Bowie, Miranda, and Morgan, I have no idea. Instead, she just sits there and is like, she took it. Miranda and, Bowie and Morgan probably still would have been standing outside in front of the house, getting in their car. It wasn't that long after, so she kind of missed that opportunity to, nip this whole thing in the bud, but we need the drama for the episode, right? Now, Cece is upset about learning what she just found out, that Bowie is dating someone, so she marches right over to the fringe to confront Bex about this whole thing, kind of encouraging Bex to do something about it because, yeah, she's like, no, this space for Bowie's love life is reserved for Bex. Cece also says that if Bex doesn't do something about it, she will, and you don't want Cece messing with all of this stuff and getting involved. Andi then shows up and says Morgan stole her bracelet and has to explain what the gift for Bex was, and Bex is all moved by this, but the bottom line is that Andi thinks that Morgan stole it. And now Bex is kind of more motivated to get to the bottom of this whole entire situation. So Andi and Bex sit Bowie down to explain to him everything that's going on and the missing box. Now before Bex and Andi explain the exact meaning of what Morgan stole, supposedly, Bowie's very quick to defend Morgan and be like, are you sure you looked everywhere? Morgan's not the kind of kid that would steal something. And Andi's like, yeah, I looked around twice. And then she and Bex explain the importance of the bracelet and the box. Well, since Bowie seems to kind of be defending, Morgan and being like, are you sure you checked everywhere? She wouldn't steal something like this. That just pisses Andi and Bex off a little bit more. Now, as Bowie goes to find out if Morgan is guilty or not, Andi and Bex have girl talk in Andi Shack, and Andi says she didn't get a good vibe from Miranda. She actually thinks Miranda seems very pushy, while Bex is the opposite and says that she actually liked Miranda when they first met. Andi thinks that this whole stolen box thing could actually help push Miranda out of Bowie's life, so I guess there's a silver lining to this whole situation, at least for Andi, if it turns out her way. Bowie then shows up and standing outside are Miranda and Morgan. Morgan issues an apology to Andi, and Andi's like, oh, it's okay, I just want the bracelets back. But then Morgan, just completely twists things on its head and it's like, oh, no, I'm sorry that you lost the bracelets. She's like, I didn't take them. And that's when Andi's face is just kind of like, hold up, you little devil child. What you talking about here? Now, Miranda makes things worse by demanding that Andi now apologize to Morgan. And then all hell just breaks loose as the moms each try to defend their child. And Bowie doesn't know what to do, so he calls a Zach Morris timeout to go search the Andi Shack himself, with Miranda and, of course, Bex following right after. This leaves Morgan and Andi outside, and they have their own kind of showdown as Andi calls Morgan a great liar and stuff. And Morgan just kind of stares at Andi and says that she didn't do it, but she has this face that's like, do I believe you? Do I not believe you? I kind of don't, but maybe I do. Bowie then emerges saying he found the box, and it was in a box of cranes, so it must have just fallen off the shelf. Now, I kind of smell something fishy here, because if you look at the shelf and it had fallen off the shelf, wouldn't they have noticed it? Like, wouldn't Andi have noticed it, and it probably would have fallen on the table or bounced onto the floor or into a box that's super close to that shelf. It doesn't seem like there was a box of crayons anywhere near that shelf. And you know how anal Andi can be. She totally would have checked that place thoroughly the 2 times that she did it. And I kind of feel like I'm not the only one buying that Bowie actually just magically found this box. Anyway, Miranda then gets this kind of I told you so attitude, but it's like no hard feelings, and Bex is like, yeah, no hard feelings, and Bowie then takes Miranda and Morgan home. But Andi doesn't buy it all, and she doesn't think she was wrong about this whole thing, and Bex actually believes Andi. But what upsets Andi more is that Bowie would take Miranda Morgan's side and not believe Andi his own kid. So now we kind of have this whole conspiracy thing. Did Bowie genuinely find the box in a crane box? But how did it get there? Could Miranda have found the box on Morgan but want to save face and tell Bowie that they didn't have it, and then when she went in to go look around for the thing, she just slipped it into the box and Bowie found it innocently? Or did Andi legit just not see it in the crane box and it did fall off properly? Or did Bowie get it from Morgan and not tell Miranda about it, and so now Miranda thinks that Andi's lying, and then to save the whole thing, Bowie went and just pretended to find it in this box? Who is he protecting? Why would he protect Morgan and Miranda over his own kid? What's going on with this whole situation? I get that Bowie does not like to ruffle feathers, but come on here. How did this box get here? Why did they think it was lost? It's a conspiracy theory, right? Or whatever. I think that I need, CSI or Shane Dawson to come solve this mystery. How did the mystery of the box. What happened here? Moving on to our other storyline, we have Buffy still avoiding Cyrus, and Cyrus trying to do everything to get Buffy to talk to him. When Buffy says Cyrus betrayed her, and he's like, how? She says she can explain it to him, but she can't understand it for him. And look, yes, Buffy is taking this whole thing to very dramatic extremes. And she really should just sit Cyrus down and have a talk with him about why this hurt her so much. Because I don't think Cyrus understands why she was so hurt by all of this. And if they just talked it out, I think Cyrus would understand. But of course, these are teenagers, like 13-year-olds. So things are going to be a little bit more dramatic than they need to be, because they think making it drawn out and giving the silent treatment or whatever is making a point. But Cyrus really does genuinely seem confused and hurt by all of this, and he's a good kid. I just want him to smile again, and you can tell this is really eating him up. Anyway, Buffy and Cyrus are kind of forced to work together to help out Jonah when his Space Otters pancake fundraiser just goes all sorts of wrong, and Buffy and Cyrus are really Jonah's only hopes into fixing this whole fundraiser. Well, the awkwardness of the silent treatment and whatnot between Buffy and Cyrus ends up getting to be too much that Cyrus cracks and starts yelling at Buffy, and it's like, why won't you talk to me and all of this, because he's like, all I've ever been is a good friend to you. and they're fighting, and Jonah then walks in and tells them to stop yelling because that's all he can hear, and the fighting is hurting the fundraiser, and he just needs them to stop fighting and make these pancakes, and then the pancakes start burning, and you can guess here if you know what's going on with Jonah. He starts to have a panic attack. It seems like he's having a panic attack. He's getting very anxious because everything for him is just going wrong today. We then see Buffy, Jonah, and Cyrus sitting at the table, and it seems like Jonah's calmed down, and he starts to tell them about his panic attacks and how this one actually wasn't a full-blown panic attack, just seemed like a panic. Jonah says he didn't tell anyone because he was actually really embarrassed by this, and it actually kind of sounds like TJ and his situation with his learning disability, but of course TJ being embarrassed by it turns it into, aggression and bullying, where Jonah just kind of hides everything inside and puts on a happy face. Cyrus then comforts Jonah and actually relates to him and says how he actually suffers from anxiety too, and when they were making that orientation video and Cyrus started to sweat a ton and all this, he was going through anxiety and he had to calm himself down, and that's when he went to the swings, and he explains to Buffy that that's why she found him with TJ there, and how TJ and him talked and calmed each other down and all of this kind of stuff, and how it's not really what Buffy is making it out to be. And Cyrus is just like, you know what, it's weird that TJ even wants to be friends with him. Now, listening to both Jonah and Cyrus talk, Buffy's kind of having this realization about how messy things have become and how she doesn't really fully know the Cyrus and TJ situation. She jumped to conclusions and all of this. She basically says she knows why TJ would want to be friends with Cyrus. Now, she's basically like, because Cyrus would be a really good friend. I don't think she picks up on anything that there could be something romantic or anything of that sense between Cyrus and TJ in the future. But basically, everything is all good. These two know about Jonah's panic attacks and his anxiety, and they comfort him, and they're friends to him about that. And then Cyrus and Buffy, they've, made up, and things seem right again in that land. But Jonah's also like, guys, we gotta get back to work. But that ends the whole drama of this entire episode. So yeah, it was a pretty dramatic one. I'm just really glad that Buffy and Cyrus figured things out. It wasn't drawn on for like 50 episodes, And I'm glad that she's actually the one to say that she was sorry, because yes, she did get pretty annoying with all the drama, but she did kind of have a right to be somewhat mad, but she could have just, like I said, sat him down and really voiced her concerns instead of being petty about it, because Cyrus seems like that guy who would want to listen and who would understand. And maybe he's the one who's going to now talk to TJ about how much TJ's hurting Buffy. This could be a good thing. Cyrus could be a good influence on TJ, and I would really like to see TJ change, for the better, and to learn, much like we've seen Amber start to change, for the better, which is a storyline that I would like to see more of with Amber. As far as the Andi versus Morgan and this whole Miranda situation, I'm kind of on the fence here. I honestly do not get good vibes from Miranda either. She does seem very pushy, or maybe it's insecurities that she's overcompensating with, kind of like how TJ overcompensates and ends up a bully. Miranda overcompensates and ends up a kind of just a pushy woman, and also very protective of her own child. Mothers like to think that their child is right. They protect their mama bears, but I feel like she's going a little far with this, but maybe they all are. I don't know. Andi also and Bex were kind of quick to judge Miranda as well, just for the fact that Miranda was dating Bowie. They didn't even get to know her either before, Andi decided she just didn't like her. But Bowie, I get, like I said, he was trying to not ruffle feathers on either side, but it did seem like he did lean more towards Miranda and Morgan and trying to protect them. And I can see why that made Andi and Bex very concerned, and it is very concerning, especially since this guy can't even call Miranda his girlfriend. If they were in a very serious relationship, I could get Bowie being a little bit more protective of those two. But even so, it doesn't even seem like he likes Miranda Morgan that much, so I'm curious to see what fallout there is from this. But for now, let's watch a promo for the next episode.
Next on Andi Mack.
It's the perfect accessory for the other thing I got for you.
The fringe.
Do you have an appointment?
No.
Is there a problem?
I hope you have a really good lawyer
For when I sue you.
Alright, so it looks like Cece bought the fringe for Bex, which is kind of interesting, and immediately they're running into trouble when Martha from High School Musical, aka Casey Stroh, comes popping and locking into the store and threatens to sue them.
Walker?
Andi has 2 guys. Count them. 2.
I don't think Andi likes me anymore.
I think you gotta do something big.
Like what?
Write her a song. Perform the song for Andi at the open mic we're having here tomorrow night.
You do remember I have panic attacks, right?
And now we have more of our Walker, Andi, and Jonah love triangle as Walker shows up, and Jonah's now kind of getting the hints that Andi isn't into him. But can that all be fixed with a love song? Because it seems like that's the direction Bowie's pushing him in, even if Jonah's ready to accept. I feel like Bowie's just like, no, you can win her back. But we also have Buffy and Cyrus now knowing about Jonah's anxiety, pretty worried about Jonah performing at an open mic night. I mean, Jonah's even worried. And you know what? I'm actually rooting for Jonah, not so much for him, professing his love for Andi or trying to win her back, but for him conquering that fear, his anxiety, because open mic nights are frightening. Any type of public speaking definitely does give me anxiety. So if he can overcome this, that's what I'm rooting for. Not so much, I like Andi and Jonah, but more so I just want to see Jonah overcome his anxiety. Or not, you can't really overcome it, I guess, but really control it. Alright, y'all, that wraps up this week's recap of Andi Mack. I gotta give props to Sophia, Joshua, and Asher in this one because I think they did shine, and that whole topic of anxiety, like I said, is a very important one to touch on, and I actually felt Cyrus's heartbreak when Buffy was giving him the silent treatment. I mean, Joshua's little puppy dog eyes, like, if you can't feel something during that, I don't know. But I want to know now, do you guys actually think Buffy will move? Will Bowie stay with Miranda? Or will Jonah move on from Andi? What's going to happen here? Sound off down in the comments. Let me know all your thoughts and theories. And then you can hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see. After that, you can click right over here to check out those Andi Mack interviews I did at the RDMAs in case you missed them. I'm Lisa. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you again for the next Andi Mack recap.